You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. Be sure to smash that like button. Let's talk some ball.
Yeah.
The last 2 years were obviously not the expectation at LSU.
Right.
I mean, what are first-year impressions of Brian Kelly? Do you know him at all?
Yeah, I met him.
I mean, I know you met him. I know. But you also in coaching circles, you talk and y'all played Notre Dame a few times.
Yeah.
What have been your impressions?
Yeah. So he's going to put a well-organized, well-oiled machine that executes very well on the field. I think you can tell based on all the stuff that's come out. He's highly organized. He's going to make sure that the players are doing what they're supposed to do. That's. Of the guys that I've talked to, he's been real big in accountability, and accountability leads to success on the field. And so he's going to, they're going to execute well, and that's half the battle right there is executing the X's and O's and the Jimmies and Joes, and they're going to have players and they're going to execute, and I think they're going to be successful.
Do you think that this is the big question I have when I look at the team. You play the bowl game with 39 scholarship players available. And a lot went wrong at the end.
Yeah.
I think we all understand. But he had a hell of an uphill climb just trying to put a roster back together to be competitive. Like, how good can they be relative to 1 to 14 in the league with the talent?
Yeah. So
against that schedule.
Yeah. So of the 39 guys, they didn't have a quarterback.
Right.
So that had a lot to do with it right there. So, but there's other players on that team that I think through recruiting, and whether you're talking about BJ or Jaquelin or Ali or the linebacking crew, the wide receiver crew, there's a couple of guys in the secondary that I know are good players. They got great coaches that are surrounding the players. So in 2000, we had 2 wide receivers, and guys, I'm sorry if they're listening, but those guys could barely run a 4.9. I mean, we had some.
I'm going through. I'm like, all right, who was on the?
Yeah, I'm not even going to name names, but we didn't have a great team in 2000, but we got lined up and they played hard. They played hard for the purple and gold, and I think the key. Well, for instance, Kyle Kipps was a tight end that they moved to defensive end. He had a great season. So, the key is to fill all 11 guys on offense and defense. Make sure that you have some good specialists and, don't overthink it and don't go out there and try to be too fancy and line up and play clean, hard-nosed football and compete. And if they do that, they're going to be – it's LSU. I mean, they're going to be more than adequate, I think. Because of the guys that they have on the roster and the people that they've brought in, I think they're going to be more than adequate. There's a couple of positions I think that are thin, offensive line and the secondary. Based on what little I've looked at it, they're pretty thin at those 2 positions. But they got great coaches there, so they can't have a bunch of injuries. Man.
Yeah. And the interesting thing there at both those positions as well, I was looking at the line. They've got 10 guys that have started games on the offensive line. 10.
Yeah.
I mean, but that kind of speaks to one of 2 things. Either it's great because you got 10 guys that have that experience, or nobody's won a job.
Right.
So it goes one of the 2 ways how it all plays out. I would always love during the summer, right before camp would start, either we'd have you on or the guys have you in the morning, and we kind of go through, all right, who stood out in the offseason workouts? Obviously, you're not with the team this summer, but are there guys that are still on the roster? I'm not going to ask you about someone you didn't coach, don't know, but are there guys who maybe you've thought during the time you've had him, he's going to be really good? Just give him a chance. Like maybe who we could look to this year and say, yeah, that guy might be poised for a big season.
Well, they got 4 guys on the defensive line that I think can all be really good. Those guys, Jaquelin, Mason Smith, BJ, and Ali. And did I say Jaquelin Roy?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Those 4 guys can be really good. Micah Baskerville is as good as any linebacker that we've had. He's just had issues that have kept him off the field, whether it was an injury or anything else. So I think Micah can be a really good linebacker. He's very instinctive. He can run. but he's got to be in the right frame of mind and be in great shape. But I think Mike is a good linebacker. Mike Jones, he started at Clemson, so I think Mike can do it there. So, yeah, I think they have the talent. I really do. And the offensive line, the good thing about the O-line, they got Coach Brad Davis, who's going to get those guys lined up.
Yeah.
He's going to get them lined up, and they're going to play hard. But last year he had 1 month with our team before we started training camp. And I watched him. Every day for the entire month of July, it was like he was moving checkers around on the chessboard, trying to get them lined up. And so we struggled mightily at that position. So I think they have the talent, to do well. They have some guys. A guy that I love is Jeray Jenkins at wide receiver, because he's tough. He's hard-nosed. He's going to make the tough catches. He's a great leader. And then they got guys, whether it's the boy from Zachary,
Chris Hilton.
Chris Hilton. Brian Thomas. What's the other freshman from last year?
Malik Neighbors.
Malik
was in that chair at the start of the show today.
Yeah. Oh, was he really?
Absolutely.
Oh, I missed him.
Yeah.
So those are guys that I've given a lot of thought about, that I think. I mean, the receivers, so I was talking earlier about the receivers that we had in 2000. Every one of the guys that I just named that are on the roster at LSU are better than the receivers that we had then, except for Josh Reed. Except for Josh. Josh was a big-time playmaker. I mean, he won the Biletnikoff Award. But the other guys around Josh were not good at all. I mean, I can't say that.
I'm going through the list. I remember some of the. I mean, Jarrell Myers had a great freshman year. He was freshman All SEC, and then it never kind of happened again for him. Reggie Robinson, was on the team.
Those guys ran 4.9.
Yeah, Reggie jokes about Ryan Clark has been in here joking about Reggie.
They ran 4.9.
It's so
great
funny.
dudes, man.
Yeah.
And then Jack Hunt. Hunt started as a freshman at wide receiver. So,
I didn't even realize that.
Yeah.
Oh man, so that's one of those tidbits.
And I
that
talk
falls
bad
to the
about Jack. I don't have a problem talking bad about Jack, but every one of the guys that I just named, except for Josh Reed, every one of those guys are better than those guys right there.
All right. Well, I got a few more minutes with you. I mentioned several times, I think you're an awesome storyteller. I'm just going to ask you about a couple of games and moments because I just want to hear your recollection. All right. So the 2019 Clemson National Championship. I loved, by the way, seeing you and your family on the field after the game. It's just the unbridled joy. The experience of climbing the mountain was just awesome. I think I saw that video on my phone somewhere. What do you remember about that day? Or about Joe? Joe's season, the whole thing.
Yeah, so Joe was the man. He was everything. From the first day that he stepped on campus there till the last day he stepped off campus, he controlled the entire room all the time. And had, was a huge reason for the success that we had. It was nothing that he couldn't do, and the guys loved him. They respected him. They knew that he was going to go to war for him. He was prepared. I've never seen anyone. The only other guy, I can't say never, the only other guy that I've seen watch more film than he was Peyton Manning. And you could go in the building at all times of the day, and Joe would be watching film. He'd be sitting with Coach Munoz or sitting with Brady or sitting, with Ensminger. And because a lot of people give, Joe Brady all the credit, but there was George Munoz and Ensminger and all these other guys that he sat with at different times in the day and watched film. So he was as prepared as anybody. Yeah, there he is right there.
God,
the man.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Look, when you grow up here, and I've said this on air a bunch, every conversation starts with Billy Cannon.
Yeah.
From the time I was a kid, Billy Cannon. It's just, okay, well, Billy Cannon, and then to where you never think anyone's ever going to surpass it, he's been surpassed.
Yeah.
It's Joe Burrow, Billy Cannon, and then you can have the rest of the conversation. 2011, remember watching the 9-6 game, and Les Miles is on the field after the game, and Tracy Wolfson asks if he wants to play him again. And Les says, I'll never forget it. I was at my parents' house watching the game with my dad. He said, I'd be honored to play that team again.
Yeah.
And I went, no!
Yeah.
No! Yeah. Why?
When they announced Alabama, it just, all the air went out of the balloon. because it took all we had to beat them
Yeah.
in Tuscaloosa, and Eric Reed's pick, where him and the receiver,
Michael Williams,
Michael,
the tight end.
They were wrestling over the ball. I mean, so all the air went out of it. But there wasn't a single guy on the team that was afraid of Alabama. There wasn't a single guy, and so Coach Miles told me before, we called it bowl prep. That's from the SEC championship on. Everything, it didn't matter what had happened in the past. We focused all of our energies on bowl prep. So Coach Miles said, we're not going to practice hard. We've played this team before. I want you to train them. They're all yours until we get, ready to play the game, when we start practice. And so we set a course, and trained the team, had them ready. And then the first day of practice started, he just murdered them, And honestly, by the time we got to the game, there just wasn't a lot of guys. And, T-Bob, I'm sure, has talked about it.
Well, he ruined it for everybody because of the fight he started.
Yeah. So, I was there. There was no one in the locker room fighting. I can promise you that. They were sitting in the locker. They were exhausted just from the preparation and practicing on the concrete of the Superdome. I mean, you practiced on that, and it's concrete. Like when you're running on the field at the Superdome, there's there are metal plates, I guess. There's some kind of electrical boxes underneath it. So when you're running, you'll hit one of those boxes and it goes boom. I mean, you can hear it. And it's just the turf is sitting on top of that concrete. Mm-hmm. And so it just wears your legs out when you practice on it. And the more you practice on it, the more detrimental it is to the game day performance. But we practiced hard. And so, Coach was all about practice, man. And we just practiced and practiced and practiced. And there was just nothing left.
Yeah. I was a senior at LSU in 2003. It was my senior year. So when you haven't won one in 45 years and you win one, it was euphoric. Yeah. They're all special and different in their own way, but that one was something. When did you know that team was capable of that?
I thought we were going to be really good, but after really we started, when you go down the gauntlet of teams that we beat, it became quickly apparent, that we were going to be really good. And, we opened the season, in Houston. I guess it was Houston. No, that was Jerry World. That was in Dallas. We opened the season with Oregon.
That was 2011.
Yeah. Oh, wait, we're talking about 2019.
It was in 2003.
Oh, 2003.
2003, yeah.
I better pay attention.
2003.
Yeah, so
2003 was my senior year at LSU.
Yeah.
So it was the first title in 45 years. And I'll tell you, that season and nobody ever thinks, because when you've never been there, you think it's like a forbidden land. But the Ole Miss game, when Eli tripped and held that offense out of the end zone, because the final was wasn't the final set, or was 17-10 or 17-13. No, wait, it was 14. I'm trying to remember the final score now. 13. They basically, Nichols missed 2 field goals in that ball game.
Yeah.
But holding that offense, that Eli-led offense, I was like, there's nobody that can score on this team.
Yeah, that it's a small place, but it's a tough place to go play. Those fans get after you, man. And when you get off the bus, there's little kids flipping you birds. And, they get after you pretty good. But that was a big win, And Eli, actually, the guard got knocked back, and the guard stepped on his foot and he fell. But it was before that. You could just tell by the leadership in the room that those guys were all dialed in. And Coach Saban, he didn't put up with a lot of bull malarkey, and so those guys were dialed in. And that's the key to being successful. And we had a great quarterback. We had a guy that was, really, really sharp. He was older, more mature than the rest of the guys on the team. Probably made as much money or had made as much money playing baseball as half our staff back then. We used to joke about that. So, he was, other than Coach Saban, he was the second richest guy in the building.
It probably still is now, man. Yeah. Matt Mock is Dr. Matt Mock. He's a dentist in Denver. I hear dentists do pretty well. I told you I could keep you forever. I could talk to you forever. But I'm going to thank you very much for the time, as always.
You're welcome.
It's always our pleasure. I appreciate you giving this time to our audience as well. I know so many people you've been part of everybody here. If you think about it, Coach, legitimately, for 22 years, you have been a part of all of our lives. Yeah. You have been. I mean, you have been a constant.
God bless you all.
But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, a lot of people want to know what's up, and they want to hear from you. And I think they're going to be glad to hear that, what's going on and what's coming up next too. And then I'm gonna bother you again. I mean, you know that. So.
Oh no, that's fine. Again, my schedule's wide open.
Well, I will fill many of those dates throughout football season. I appreciate it, Coach. Thank you so much. That is Tommy Moffitt. This is After Further Review. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.